Syrian Arab Army units establish control over Skaka village and hill in a Suwaida countryside and eliminate scores of terrorists. At least 18 Yemenis are killed and scores wounded, most of them children and women, as a result of the Saudi airstrikes. A number of social and religious figures take part in the forestation campaign held in the streets and squares of Ain Yabrud after restoring security and stability to the region. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our news for today. Russian President Vladimir Putin renewed Moscow's firm stand in supporting President Bashar al-Assad and his government, stressing that it is the right stand. Addressing the General Assembly of the World Economic Forum in St. Petersburg in Russia, Putin said Russia was ready to continue working with President al-Assad to guarantee the way for political changes, stressing that such objective cannot be realized by foreign intervention or by using force. In reply to a question about the possibility for Russia to ask President al-Assad to step down, President Putin affirmed that nobody can raise such an issue except the Syrian people. Syria slammed the complete ignoring of facts flowing a UN report on the situation of children in Syria. During a Security Council session on children and armed conflicts, Syria's permanent representative to the UN, Bashar said, "The report on Syria overlooks the true roots behind the crisis in it and abstains from recognizing the role of the countries in aiding the spread of terrorism and multiplying its grave impact on Syria's children." He criticized the suspicious disregard by the Special Representative of the UN Secretary General for Children and Armed Conflict, Leila Zarugui, and her office of the dozens of documented correspondences and letters sent by the Syrian government providing evidence against the many allegations included in this recent report and others before it. Al-Jafari referred to the lists of thousands of incidents with the date, place and names documented where schools and hospitals were attacked and children were killed at the terrorists' hands, which were sent to Zarougi's office since the beginning of the crisis. Yet, despite the government's close cooperation with Zarougi's and her office, not even one of those documented incidents and proofs was headed in the report, said Al-Jafari. This fact, he added, explains the unjustified rejection of a demand for listing the Israeli occupation in the report's attachments as a party responsible for the killing of thousands of Palestinian children in occupied Palestine and the suffering of Syrian children under occupation in the Syrian Golan. Syria's ambassador dismissed all the attempts at demonizing the Syrian government and blaming it for terrorism while ignoring the role of the terrorism-backing countries, referring to the camps set up in Syria's neighboring countries for recruiting children as young as 4, which have taken unprecedented bloody forms. He cited videotapes published by the Islamic State in Iraq and Syria, ISIS, terrorist organization, showing children of no more than 10 years of age carrying out mass executions against captives for shooting or decapitating them. Al-Jafari also highlighted the terrorist approach of educating children in a Takfiri Wahhabi educational system and closing hundreds of government-run schools and turning them into bases for them and centers to store their weapons and ammunition. The Syrian representative to the UN reiterated call upon the United Nations to take measures to bring to account the countries supporting terrorism and enforce the Security Council's resolutions on countering terrorism. The latest was Resolution 2199. He also called on the UN to support the Syrian government's efforts towards rehabilitating affected children and integrating them into society, and take a stand to stop the war on Syria from being continuously fueled, which he warned would threaten more generations inside and outside Syria who are growing up to the images of blood and violence. Syrian Arab Army units established control over Skaka village and hill in Suwaida countryside, making it a region free from members of Takfiri terrorist organizations. The Syrian Arab Army killed a number of terrorists who were hiding in the region, destroying their weapons and equipment. In the northern countryside of al-Qunaitira, a Syrian Arab Army unit targeted terrorist gatherings where many terrorists were killed, others injured, and their vehicles, some of which equipped with machine guns, destroyed.
Hadar is a town located below Al-Sheikh mountain overlooking Turinje and Jibat al-Khashab to the west, near the occupied borderline, and Beijing to the east. The town remained steadfast in the face of the Takfiri groups.
We are here stationed to defend our homeland. Nothing can shake our resolve to liberate every inch of the land. The hills they captured will be restored sooner or later by the Syrian Arab Army.
Smoke rises as army units shell terrorist dens in Turinje area. Our TV camera met a number of residents who expressed determination to defend their homeland.
They shelled our house, but we refused to surrender. We support the army in its fight against the terrorists.
The rumors and fabrications spread by suspicious media channels sought to cover up the big losses inflicted on al-Nusra terrorists who were kicked outside Hadar village into Tlul al-Humr hills adjacent to the occupied Golan.
The Turkish newspaper Hurriyet interviewed chairman of the Turkish People's Party Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu, who affirmed that Turkey is facing several problems and the opposition parties are taking important steps towards resolving these problems. Oğlu renewed the stand of his party towards reopening investigation into the scandals of corruption and bribery in which Erdogan and his relatives are involved in. At least 18 Yemenis were killed and scores wounded, most of them children and women, as a result of the Saudi airstrikes that targeted Razah region in Sada and the explosion of a bombed car in Al-Bayda. Meanwhile, a military source said that the Yemeni army and the People's Committees were able to break into the Saudi Al-Manjara position in At-Tawal region and destroy it. The source added that the Yemeni army targeted a number of Saudi positions in Jazan with scores of missiles and artillery shells. The source pointed out that the Saudi regime used the internationally banned cluster bombs on Al-Mazraq region. Finally, and in our local news, a number of social and religious figures took part in the forestation campaign held to plant trees in the streets and squares of Ain Yabrud.
A forestation campaign was held in Yabrud with the participation of social and religious figures in the region. The participants affirmed that the event stressed an important fact, namely the return of normal life to Yabrud and its neighboring areas. They emphasized that the event reflects Syrian people's determination to protect their homeland against terrorism and its regional and international sponsors, referring that Syria will remain the beating heart of the Arab nation and humanity as a whole.
We in Syria are still planting trees. This small village is rich in everything, but it suffers a lot because of terrorism, and now it returns safe.
I'm pleased to be here by invitation from Dr. Azdihar in this place. Ras Al Ain is near Yabrud, 1.5 kilometers in Al-Kalamoon Heights. We are here to say to the people that Kalamoon is safe and all Syria will be safe. The principle here to plant a tree, and we plant some tree in this place on the slogan that each house a tree for each house, and the tree mean the life, and I hope the tree of life, Syria is the tree of life of all world.
We speak on behalf of our homeland. We are one people and we have one leader. We sacrifice our blood for the sake of Syria. This event indicates that Syria is unified by all its constituents. We share citizenship, and as men of religion, we have to be the safety valve for our people, and we have to be messengers of love and good.
The event was preceded by a cultural and artistic festival during which folklore panels were presented embodying the unity of Syria and the love of Syrians for their homeland. The event affirmed that the Syrians are determined to fight hand in hand with the army to uproot terrorism, eliminate Takfiri thought and reconstruct their homeland, the homeland of the first alphabet.
With this, we conclude our news for today. Thank you for watching. For more details about Syria and the region and to view this bulletin again, you can always visit our Facebook page, Syria TV channels. You may also watch the Syrian satellite channel live on YouTube. Now to latest business and market news with Nariman Qassam, with after a short break. Stay tuned.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Electricity Minister Imad Khamis, during a visit to the Iranian capital Tehran, discussed with the Iranian Energy Minister Hamid Jadjian means and ways of bilateral cooperation between the two countries, especially in the field of electricity, such as spare parts, maintenance and equipment needed for the electricity transmission networks and materials needed for generating electricity. Engineer Khamis stressed the importance of enhancing bilateral cooperation in the field of electricity by implementing the economic cooperation, which was signed last March. Khamis said that the Syrian leadership is determined on fighting terrorism in all over Syria until purifying the Syrian lands from terrorism that poses a threat on the entire region and the whole world, and also reconstruct the infrastructure that was destroyed by the armed terrorist organizations. On his part, the Iranian Energy Minister renewed his country's support to Syria in counter-terrorism, especially in the field of electricity, as he added that we will provide all necessary equipments for implementing the services projects that are being carried out by the Iranian companies in Syria. Damascus Governorate, in cooperation with the Syrian Arab Red Crescent, distributed aid packages to the locals of Al-Qadam area in Damascus. The distributed aid, which included 1,000 food packages and bread, comes in the framework of the Syrian government's efforts to meet the needs of citizens in all areas. Ahmed al-Nabilsi, Deputy Damascus Governor, said that the Governorate is coordinating with SARC in carrying out daily initiatives in Damascus to provide bread, food and fuel to areas that witnessed national reconciliation. He affirmed that these steps prove that the Syrian government sticks to its responsibilities towards the Syrian people. Damascus Stock Exchange market exceeded during the last week 32,606,000 Syrian pounds. The volume of exchange reached 336,644 shares. The market recorded the WX index value, which amounted to about 1,196 points and 34 parts of the point. The banking sector came first in terms of value and volume of transactions, followed by the insurance sector, then the industrial one. The oil prices decreased for this week, with 2% in its first decrease after 3 days of gains, as the market was slightly affected due to Greece debts. And now over to some main currencies exchange rates according to the bulletin of the Central Bank of Syria. Ladies and gentlemen, this was our economic news for today. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.